When you retire, you may get a chance to go to football heaven. This is football heaven.
Hello and welcome to the Mission Podcast. I'm your host, Jameer Howardson, and as always, we have a great show for you as we continue to celebrate the excellence of this year's 2022 class of the Black College Football Hall of Famers. The Hall is gearing up for another exciting weekend of HBCU football when Central State will face Winston-Salem State right here at Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium. Well, joining us on the mission today is Chancellor Elwood Robinson of Winston-Salem State University. Chancellor, welcome to the mission, sir.
No, I'm glad to be here. Thanks for the invitation. You presented that well. We are excited. University is excited. It's an opportunity for us to come up to the Hall of Fame. I can't wait. It's going to be a great.
Sir, we're inside the Black College Football Hall of Fame gallery, and I would be remiss because I know we're going to dive in and talk a lot about the amazing work that you've been doing at Winston-Salem University. But over top of me right here is Timmy Newsome, Black College Hall of Famer from the class of 2019. Let's talk about him and the legacy that he brings to Winston-Salem State.
He brings a great legacy, and it's interesting that Timmy Newsome certainly was one of my favorite players before I got here. I have been, Jameer, a lifelong Cowboy fan. And given the fact that Timmy Newsome was a Cowboy and then coming to Winston-Salem State University, understanding just the tremendous impact that he had on the sports program here. He was a tremendous student, athlete, and he goes on to do great things. He has continued to be an important part of this university, having served on some of our boards. So Timmy Newsome is a star. He is a bright star here at Winston-Salem State University.
Well, Chancellor, let's jump into it. Let's talk about the rich history of Winston-Salem State. You took over in year 2015. If you could just talk about some of the amazing work that you've been able to accomplish of making Winston-Salem State not only a powerhouse in athletics, but in academics as well.
No, thanks for that question. I really appreciate it. You know, we came here in 2015. The university was certainly on a great trajectory. It has had a huge history, Jameer. In fact, this year we celebrate 130 years of existence, and we're very proud of that 130th anniversary. And so we get to come up to Canton, Ohio as part of that September celebration. Our birthday is actually on September the 28th. So we came here, Jameer. I was excited about this university. It has a great history of academic excellence. So when I got here, we really started thinking about how we could create this first-class educational experience for every single student. I tell folks you can go anywhere in America to a college and it educates about 10%, 15% of those students at a very high level. We asked the question in 2015, could we do that for every single student? Could we make sure that that student was prepared to go out into the workforce and not only be a part of that workforce, Jameer, but create new workforces. That's what new pathways, that's what we want our students to be able to do. So we've had great success over the past few years with social and economic mobility. So we get students that come to our university. Many of them come from under-resourced families. About 70% of our students come from families that make less than $50,000 a year, right? And about 50% of our students are first generation. But these individuals come to Winston-Salem State University with a plan, with a drive to be successful. They leave, and when they graduate, Jameer, about 72% of our students are employed 6 months after graduation, which is one of the highest percentages in the state. And so getting a job and going out and changing the trajectory of their families is extremely important. And so student success is important to us, social mobility is important to us, and we've made great strides in that arena. We unleash this year, Jameer, a new strategic plan. And that plan says, I've been telling the incoming class that I want them to graduate in 4 years with a degree in one hand, with a business plan in the other, and I want to be able to provide capital for them to launch that business. So that's a grand plan, but we're gonna make it happen, Jameer.
That's amazing. That's amazing. With that being said, and you look at your athletic department, how important is it to you for your student athletes to have a well-balanced student life as well as as well as athletics?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yes, Sunday we had our first meeting with our student athletes, and really is a time, welcoming them back to campus, but also telling them how important it is that they get their coursework done, that they excel, in the classroom. We have a plan. Our student athletes for the first time exceeded a 3.0 collective GPA. And we are challenging them even more. And in fact, the team had a conversation with them, and our goal is for the entire athletic department to have a GPA of a 3.4. That's our goal. We're pushing them to be able to do that. We see them as students first who just happen to play sports because that's important for us and that's important for them. And they tend to be, believe it or not, their GPA is higher than the average student. So not only do they play sports, but they're scholars, they're leaders, they're in SGA, Student Government Association, they're everywhere. So not only did we see them on the sports field, but we see them in the classroom doing amazing things. We are excited about being in Division II. I just rotated off the NCAA President's Council for Division II because Division II fits us. Division II is life in the balance. It's not just what's happening athletically, but it is that balance between making sure that you get your academics, make sure that you play sports, but also make sure you spend a life that is healthy, both physically and mentally. So a well-rounded academic university experience is important for our student athletes.
Your football team has been upgraded with a new hire and head coach, Robert Massey. Talk about what he brings to this football program, being a former NFL legend.
Yeah, I think he brings, he certainly brings a lot. He's been with us for a while. He was certainly promoted to head football coach. We will be interested to see Robert Massey this year. Will be his first full season, with being the permanent coach, and that in and of itself brings a change. And as you know, you feel more comfortable, you can be yourself, you can begin to implement who you are. And as you've noticed in HBCU sports and Black college sports, there's been this trend where had these athletes all of a sudden who are going into coaching roles. We're not going to mention any of those names because we don't care about any of those names. But what I tell people that you can look at those folks. Robert Massey was there before them, and Robert Massey is with us, and Robert Massey was a Pro Bowler and an exceptional player in the NFL. He brings that experience with him, but also he brings the experience and he knows what it's like to be on the HBCU campus. Real interesting is I spent some time at North Carolina Central University. I was at North Carolina Central University when Robert Massey was a student. So I remember Robert Massey as a student at North Carolina Central University. But backing up in terms of coming into this program, it really is important for someone who understands the student athlete and who understands our players. What Robert Massey did as an interim during a very, very difficult time, a challenging time for the past 2 years on all college campuses across this country, but certainly challenging for us being able to manage the pandemic because health and safety was certainly paramount for us. And athletes had to endure a sense of isolation, a sense of not being in the public eye, not being able to perform in arenas and in places in which they have a huge fan base. So that isolation took its toll on our student athletes. Robert Massey was there with them for every step of the way. He met with those young men, had conversations with them, making sure that they were doing the right thing, they were being taken care of from a mental, from a psychological perspective. And that impressed me. It impressed me as a chancellor to see a head football coach doing that during a time in which his players needed him the most. Now as we're beginning to move out of that a little bit, having to manage it differently, still there, but managing it a little bit different, it feels a little different. now I think he's had an opportunity also to hire his own assistants.
Okay.
And so now I think it's time now is to really kind of put his plan in motion. I'm excited to see what's going to happen this year.
Well, Labor Day weekend, you guys open up here at Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium. And as we talked about the excitement surrounding opening up the season here, but if you could talk about the exposure and what this does for the university, and also too, the student athletes, the cheerleading squad, and of course, the Red Sea of Sound.
I like the way you said that. And they will like that as well, the Red Sea of Sound. So one of the things that I talk a lot about at Winston-Salem State University is the WSSU experience. So when a student comes to Winston-Salem State University, we say that we're going to put in front of you a great experience, not just what happens in the classroom, but what happens outside of the classroom. We've extended our conceptually how we educate students. It's not just what happens there, it's what happens on internships and externships and what they do in research and what they do on campuses and get involved in organizations. All of those things are part of the experience that we want to make sure that all of them get a chance to partake in. So each year we think about how we can extend that. We were blessed to have the opportunity to receive an invitation to be a part of the Black College Hall of Fame Classic. So that's an opportunity to now take our students to a part of the world many of them had never been, but to see something important, to see something amazing, to see something historic, and see something that talks about the legacy of Black college sports. So for our student athletes to be able to participate in that, it just extends that experience and that exposure. And that's powerful. It's really powerful along the way. So not only will you see our the football team, which is a great group of young men, but and you said, and I'm going to put the Red Sea of Sound, and the Red Sea of Sound is a tremendous band, led by Dr. Magruder. Since I've been here as band director, it is not necessarily one of the largest bands, but it is one of the best performing bands around, because it's not just about performing, and performing is important and they do that well, but it is about being about music and playing music well, and it's the sound that's important. Sometimes people forget about that. And so when you see the Red Sea of Sound and when you hear the Red Sea of Sound, I want you to listen to it in terms of how they play. And then don't get sidetracked by the performers, because they're gonna be jumping all over the place and doing all that kind of stuff. But
right.
The sound of the music, that's gonna be powerful, and that's gonna be important. And so tell the fans to begin to do that. So you will see not only that, then you will see our powerhouse cheerleaders, and which is, they are the best in the business. The best in the business, Jameer. I don't know if you know that they introduced Sierra's video this summer.
Oh no.
Oh yes.
Whoa.
Yes.
If for everybody like that's listening and watching, and if you're in a different planet, Sierra is, Russell Wilson's wife, and she is a Grammy Award winner.
Right.
Wow.
And so her new video, Jump, which has been seen by millions and millions of people. The powerhouse cheerleaders entered the first 45 seconds of that video they're doing with Sierra. And in fact, it is part of our signature, a signature event that the cheerleaders do. They taught it to Sierra. And so, you got to watch it. You got to see it.
It's a party when I make that thing jump, jump, jump. You like it when I make that thing jump. I go wild when I make that thing jump. Come on, and get loud when I make that thing jump.
But this is a great segue, because this is my point. This is exactly my point. Everything that you're saying, for people that have never been to a HBCU Classic, what can they expect?
So HBCU
the energy.
Classic, it really is nothing like an HBCU Classic when you have two HBCU schools going at it bringing together rich traditions and rich cultures. So there is, in fact, an HBCU culture, but it is not the same everywhere you go. It's very different. Like the culture at Winston-Salem State is different than the culture at Central State, but there are some commonalities within that. So, you got these common themes around family. You got these common things around how we entertain ourselves with energy and with enthusiasm and coming together, and you'll see that manifest itself in how we interact with one another and how we greet one another. And it's almost like we're kind of doing this together. But if you've ever been to a family reunion where there's music and there's food, you got to be. We talk about tailgating and food and music and entertainment. That's the whole notion about what we just talked about with the Red Sea of Sound, right?
That's right. That's right.
There are bands, and then there are bands that perform, right? Right. And so it is about the energy. It is about performing, being there. And it is always about being true to the legacy and the history and tradition of these great institutions. We know very clearly that we are standing on the shoulders of giants. And we try to pass that on through every single thing that we do in terms of our performances. And what you will see from us, and what I tell the Red Sea of Sound, and what I tell the Powerhouse cheerleaders, and what I tell our football team, that everywhere you go, you are a reflection of the university, and you carry with you a great legacy that every day we try to uphold. And what you will see, Jameer, from Winston-Salem State is that when you see them, from the time that they walk in, they carry that, and to the time that they perform, they carry that as well. And I would ask fans, those who are new, to pay particular attention, have attention to how they carry themselves when they come into the stadium and when they're performing.
That's amazing. And, before I let you go, we talked about your graduation rate and your plans and your vision for that. And you talked about how proud of the legacy of your students. But there's one alumnus that I know you have to be proud of. First Take's own, ESPN's own Stephen A. Smith, who will be here Friday doing the taping. How proud are you to have such I want to use the right word. He's a giant to me in our world of broadcast media. He's definitely you look to him. He sets the bar, if you will. But coming from that rich tradition of Winston-Salem State University, how proud of you are of Stephen A.
I'll tell you a quick story, and then I'll tell you how proud I am of him. Stephen A. has, and this always makes me feel good to know that I have a relationship like this with Stephen A. So Stephen A. is releasing a new book that's coming out. It's actually, you can pre-order it now, but it's coming out in January. And he sends me the notice that, the book is coming out in January. And so about, I think last week, around Wednesday or Thursday, I text him, and I sent him a text, and I said, I will promote this book heavily. And when you go on your book tour, I need for you to start your book tour at Winston-Salem State University. Right. This is about 10:30. Now he's live on First Take. Right. I text him. He texted me back, and he's live on the show. He texted me back. Thank you. That sounds like a great idea. I'm gonna have to get with my publisher, Simon and Schuster, on this, and we'll try to. I said, the guy's live on television texting me. How cool is that, Jameer?
That's amazing. That's amazing. That's amazing.
But certainly very proud of Stephen A. He continues to promote HBCUs. He continues to promote Winston-Salem State University. And when entertainers, when celebrities, we're not doing that. And they have not always done that, Jameer. I mean, we've had a lot of celebrities and athletes, and now it's, people do it all the time. But before it became in vogue, Stephen A. was doing it. He never stopped. He never once during his career did not talk about Winston-Salem State and his time, with legendary, Hall of
Yeah.
Famer Big House Gaines on the basketball team there, and then having his career in journalism and writing and reporting, and he's been so much a big part of the university and such a philanthropist and donor.
Yes.
And in the PS in his text, he says, "Where do I send my money this year?" Right? So.
Yeah. My Stephen A story, I was blessed to meet him when I was working as the team reporter for the New York Jets. And I went up to him. I was so excited. And I introduced myself to him. And I told him, I'm an HBCU grad, University of Maryland, Eastern Shore. He goes, well, I feel bad for you on that. But brother, it's good to meet you. I was just like, he just cracking jokes on me. Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. Sorry for you.
Right.
But it's a pleasure to meet you. So I was just like so elated to meet him. So, but no, sir, we really, really, really can't wait to honor you, your team, your student body here in Canton, Ohio for the Black College Football Hall of Fame Classic Week. And guys, don't forget, tickets are still on sale. Please visit profootballhof.com for all your ticket packages. Chancellor Robinson, I really thank you.
No, look, I thank you. One last story.
Yes, please. Right, give it up. Give it up, Chancellor.
So Winston-Salem State University, one of the legends, legendary professors, was Virginia Newell. And Virginia Newell, you could Google her. She's amazing. She is 103 years old. She will be 104 next week. I'm going home. I left my office yesterday, and she called my office and said, I want to ask the chancellor one thing, right? So I said, Virginia Newell, right? So I get on the telephone, and she said, Chancellor, I just have one thing for you. He said, my daughter is in Youngstown, Ohio, and I know about, this game, this Hall of Fame game, and she wants to come to the Hall of Fame game. And she wants to meet you. And she's afraid that they will turn her away, and I said, Dr. Newell, they will not turn your daughter away. I will get my staff on it right now to make sure that your daughter is well taken care of. But that just speaks to the history, traditions, the legacies of HBCUs. They go on and on and on, generation after generation. We'll be coming to Ohio, to Canton, Ohio, and having that moment yesterday kind of sealed the deal for me. And then being able to play Central State is amazing as well. I was good friends with the former president, not this one, with Dr. Hammond, Cynthia Hammond, and so she and I were good friends. So I'm looking forward to the competition as well.
Yeah, Dr. Thomas is a great guy. I like to brag on him because he's my former English professor when I was at Eastern Shore, Maryland. So we go way back. Yeah, he's a great guy. So I can't wait to get that photo op of the chancellor and the president together.
There you go.
Well, for Chancellor Robinson, I'm Jameer Howerton. We thank you so much for joining us right here on The Mission.